So our next guest is a Second Amendment attorney who's done a lot of really important work. He's right here in San Diego, and he's done some really, really interesting cases. And he just published a piece where he talks about how a court got it extremely wrong when it comes to the history of the Second Amendment. So I wanted to invite him on the show to have him talk you through it, so that you can find his article and read it for yourself, because it was really well written. It was extremely well done. Alan Beck, how you doing, man?
I'm well, Mike. Have me on.
Yeah, good. Well, thank you for all that you do, and thanks for joining us on the show today. So let's set it up. First off, what was the case that you were addressing? Tell everybody about the actual lawsuit that you were talking about.
In my article, I was discussing NRA v. Bondi.
Yep.
That's a case that challenges Florida's restrictions on sale of firearms to young adults.
Adults that are
18 through 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
Correct.
And talk about the case. What actually happened in the case? What was the finding in the case? What was the result of the case? Just give us like a 30-second rundown on the actual case and the plaintiff and what the decision was.
Well, what's important is the 11th Circuit found that 18 through 20-year-olds don't have Second Amendment rights to purchase firearms. And it found that because during the colonial era, 18 through 20-year-olds were considered minors. And that, according to the 11th Circuit, meant they didn't have a right to contract. And by not having a right to contract, the 11th Circuit said that they didn't, businesses wouldn't sell firearms to them. And based upon that, they effectively didn't have a Second Amendment right. So they upheld Florida's law.
Interesting. So Florida passed a law saying that if you're 18, 19, or 20 years old, you're not allowed. You're unable to purchase a firearm. That they're restricting the rights of 18, 19, and 20-year-old adults, and went to court. The court upheld the law. The court said, yes, this law is constitutional. We're not going to strike this law down because the history shows that 18 and 19 and 20-year-olds at the time of the when the Constitution was written, 18, 19, and 20-year-olds weren't considered adults, and therefore you can restrict their rights. There were laws, restricting 18, 19, and 20-year-olds. So therefore, we're going to uphold this law in Florida restricting their rights to buy firearms. Now, what's wrong with that historic or first off, did I get that right? Did I summarize it okay?
Well, to be clear, no one is arguing that 18, 19, and 20-year-olds did not have a legal right to own firearms during the colonial era. What the state of Florida argued is that, as a general matter, you did not have a right to contract for the sale of goods during the colonial era if you were under 21. That's very similar to how if you are 17 now, you don't have a right to contract for the sale of goods. And they derived from that you didn't have a right to purchase firearms specifically as someone under 20.
Interesting. So what's wrong with that historic text?
That is inaccurate because there was an exception for something considered a necessity. Necessities are things that you need to not just survive, but live your life. And, as I sort of fully summarize in the article, which was published by the Reload, that term included anything that you could have to to basically to maintain your station in life. So that would include work tools, that would include uniforms, that in some cases would include a horse if you needed it to work. So that meant that a firearm would have been considered a necessity during the colonial era because every young adult needed a firearm for militia service.
Interesting.
The 11th Circuit found one specific case where a pistol was considered not a necessity, and based its entire ruling on that. However, that's an error. The 11th Circuit, how they got that wrong is that we didn't need pistols for militia service, right? We're dealing with a fact-based inquiry. Every single young adult needed a rifle or a shotgun, both to hunt and for militia duty. And the court very specifically, the colonial court held that a pistol is not a necessity, was specifically ruling on that young adult's circumstances. So it easily could have been a dueling pistol or something like that that you didn't need for your day-to-day. Whereas a rifle or a shotgun is something that all young adults needed. And pistols still would have been considered necessities for many young adults because many adults, for example, ones that were serving the cavalry, would have needed that to maintain their station in life. So what the 11th Circuit did is it used one case about a very specific subset of firearm that you wouldn't use to hunt, you wouldn't use for military duty, and honed in on that and didn't realize that the court was engaged in a very specific fact inquiry about that particular young adult's needs for that particular pistol, and then decided to derive a legal rule from it that it generalized to all firearms for all people.
That's
that was the major error.
And that level of trying to thread a needle or split a hair or whatever, that level of gymnastics to get to a conclusion is something you usually find in the 9th Circuit rather than the 11th. How do you explain? Like what happened there? What do you think? Why do you think things went wrong?
Well, I mean, I think just on a fundamental level, there's a lot of people that are uncomfortable with giving 18-year-olds a legal right to firearms. And, right, I mean, we live in a country where, you hear it on the news, even though you and I know mass shooters are very rare, they are sensationalized by the media. And, these judges, they know what their job is, but they also are human beings that are guided by, their politics, and they didn't want to take responsibility for being the one that put 18-year-olds putting firearms in 18-year-olds' hands. I mean, I think it's simple as that.
So what do you think the next likely step is with this case?
Well, that case being litigated by the NRA, and the NRA has already announced they'll be filing a petition for writ of certiorari with the U.S. Supreme Court.
Okay, good.
So that should be the next level.
And if you had to look into your crystal ball, how do you think the justices on the Supreme Court will view this? Do you think they have a real good shot of getting this law overturned in the Supreme Court, or how do you feel about the Supreme Court's possible reaction?
I think so. I think there is a circuit split on the issue of whether 18 through 20-year-olds have Second Amendment rights right now. With several appellate courts have ruled on this, and the courts are divided on whether 18 through 20-year-olds have Second Amendment rights. With the 10th Circuit and the 11th Circuit on one side, and the 5th Circuit, the 3rd Circuit, and the 8th Circuit on the other side. So the Supreme Court, typically takes they only will consider a case typically if there's a circuit split or there's a a federal law that's been overturned. There's a couple other sort of unique other reasons, but those are the two main ones. And because the courts are divided on the proper protection 18 through 20-year-olds should get on regarding Second Amendment rights, I think there's a very high chance that the Supreme Court will take it. And the interesting thing is the Florida Attorney General's office, there's been a change in attorney generals in the past, since this case was originally litigated. That Florida Attorney General has actually announced that they will not be defending this case at the U.S. Supreme Court.
That's interesting.
Because they believe the law is unconstitutional now. So it'll be interesting to see what the Supreme Court does if a cert petition, when the cert petition is filed. Because effectively the Florida AG is going to say, please take it because we agree with the NRA. This law is unconstitutional. You should get this decision overturned. So if it doesn't get granted, the Supreme Court is going to have to appoint someone to argue the other side.
Interesting. That's awesome. I appreciate you breaking the case down and talking about it. I think that your write-up was awesome. Where do people find your write-up so they can read it for themselves?
It was published by The Reload, which is an online firearms magazine I highly recommend. If you Google The Reload and maybe put in Alan Beck in addition to that, or Miners' Right to Contract, the article should come up. Or if you just simply go to the Reload website, just keep scrolling down. It was published a couple weeks ago, so eventually you're down to it. But I think the easiest way is just put in The Reload, and then Google The Reload and Alan Beck.
Okay. And we'll have a link as well. And thank you to The Reload for publishing Alan's work. And Alan, thank you for everything that you've done, especially this write-up. I thought it was really, really well done. So thank you. Appreciate you coming on the show. Always a pleasure to talk to you, and keep up the fantastic work, Alan. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
See you, man. Take care. That interview was brought to you by Cargo, cases and rugged gear outfitters in El Cajon. Go to cargostores.com, check them out. They have all kinds of cool products. Or if you're in town, go to 423 Broadway in El Cajon. Cargo has all kinds of cases, all kinds of cases to fit your needs. Gun cases, camera cases, whatever you need to carry and protect, they have a case for you. Plus, they'll customize it for you. But that's not all they do. They have all kinds of cool products. They have all kinds of camping and survival products. They have really, really cool things for guns or for non-gun owners alike. They're big supporters of the show. We're big fans of Cargo, so check them out. And if you use GOR, you'll get a discount. So when you're online, or if you go into the store and mention Gun Owners Radio or use the discount code GOR, you'll get a huge discount. Cargo will also add a desiccant pack to keep your firearms safe and dry and rust-free. So other places sell you the rechargeable desiccant for $15, but you get it for free. Just mention Gun Owners Radio when you go in, or use the code GOR, and you'll get it for free. Remember, firearms only have a couple of enemies. One of them is politicians. The other one is rust. So this will help you get rid of that. Go support Cargo. Let them know how happy you are that they support Gun Owners Radio, and check them out. Hey, thanks for watching Gun Owners Radio. I hope you loved that clip. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and follow us on social media, and check out our website at gunownersradio.com.